So the U.S.'s intelligence in Afghanistan at that time was coming from the Taliban, a terrorist organization.
I don't say this. The State Department says this. Mr. Thomas West, the current U.S. Special Envoy to Afghanistan, says this.
How many people did the U.S. evacuate from Afghanistan?
The Biden administration claims it evacuated about 120-something thousand individuals.
120-something Taliban individuals?
1,000 individuals. 120,000.
Were any of those people vetted?
You
through a background check.
You're a professional. You worked in the CIA. You tell me, is it possible to vet people, that many people, in 2 weeks while you're surrounded by Taliban, Afghani, ISIS, there's a suicide bombing, and all that chaos? You saw the stuff on TV. You tell me, is it possible to vet all of those individuals?
No.
Okay. Now, Mr. Biden can claim whatever he wants, and this is a free country. You can believe him or you can just say, no, give me the evidence. What I can tell you is this. About the veterans, most veterans involved in this, they're all in agreement in this, that about 70% of the people that Mr. Biden evacuated were not eligible to get any of the visas. They were not vetted. They don't know who they brought out. They're figured it out. They're figuring it out right now. They're learning who they brought out now while they're already here. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those individuals that we brought. If you said what I'm saying right now, they would call you racist, Islamophobe. They can't say the same thing to me. So there is a process. America is a very generous country. It gave me a home. It took me in. And this is going to continue. America has always been a generous country. It will continue to accept refugees legally, vetted correctly. But that is not what is happening right now. That is not what happened. Unvetted individuals, they were not the so-called allies, quote unquote. They don't know who they were. They were just people. And so this category of individuals that they brought, the whole of Afghanistan falls under that category. It's all your ally. Are you going to evacuate all 40 million of the Afghan people and bring them here? You tell me, is the evacuation the solution here? Or is it just a Band-Aid to this problem?
It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah. You were in Afghanistan too, right? You were deployed there. You trained the Afghan forces. You worked with them. Did you ever think that you were doing this in order to bring these guys and make them your neighbors in America? Or were you doing it so they could fight for their own country, defend their own country, keep terrorism at bay? And when Afghanistan is free and safe, America is safe. It's linked. Look at what happened on 9/11. Terrorism was in Afghanistan, America was attacked. Now, the same thing has happened again. Now, what some people are actually doing right now is they're even evacuating the Afghan commandos. They're evacuating or lobbying to evacuate Afghan intelligence officers, Afghan commandos, tactical teams, pilots. The very individuals who took the oath to defend the Constitution of Afghanistan, the people of Afghanistan, now they're evacuating them and bringing them here to the United States. And once they come to the United States, they're not going to be pilots. They're not going to be CIA. They're not going to become generals in the U.S. military. They probably won't even be able to join the military. So what they end up doing here is gas station clerks, Uber drivers. Nothing wrong with those jobs, and nothing wrong with some of those individuals, all of those individuals being here. But if you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, try to justify to me that bringing these professionals, trained individuals here is better than for them to be in their own birth country and their homes with their families and fight for their country, defend their country, save their country. And once again, when Afghanistan is safe, America is safe.
What do our former allies think of us now?
It depends on who you talk to. Depends. Some are very pissed.
I could
Some
imagine.
feel naturally very, very betrayed and abandoned, because it's not the first time America has done something like this to the people in Afghanistan. America abandoned the people in Afghanistan after the Cold War. 2 million Afghans died in that war. That was not a Cold War between Afghanistan and the Soviet Union. Afghans made so much sacrifices in that war for freedom. But once the war was over, America abandoned Afghanistan. In 1996, when the Taliban came to power, there was many things America could do. America betrayed Afghanistan, abandoned it. 2001, after we went in there, we didn't give the Afghan people what they wanted, a decentralized system of governance. Instead, we gave them Mr. Hamid Karzai. We gave them Ashraf Ghani. We gave them, during the Bonn conference, we gave them what we thought was good for Afghans. What America thought, what Zalmay Khalilzad thought was good for Afghans. We gave them that. And now in 2020, 2021, so between 2001 and 2021, the evacuations, do you know how many Afghan soldiers laid down their lives, made the ultimate sacrifice? Half of the Afghan army were killed by the Taliban between that time, 2001 to 2021. Half the Afghan army. And then Mr. Joe Biden decides to abandon them. And you know what he said when he was doing this? He said, we, America, gave them everything we could. One thing we could not give them was the will to fight. We gave them everything we could. We could not give them the will to fight. The people in Afghanistan were fighting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda long before Joe Biden even knew what Al-Qaeda and Taliban was. I doubt he still knows what Taliban and Al-Qaeda are. Because if he did, he would not be calling them good Taliban. He would not be saying from the White House podium that America is working with the Taliban. This is chaos, Shawn.
I know it is.
And it's happening before everyone's eyes, and people are not even noticing it. So during the evacuations, what became known as the Abbey Gate bombing, a few days before this, the National Resistance Front, the resistance that had already been declared, members of the Afghan government, intelligence commandos were there. They received reports and they notified the US that the Taliban will carry out suicide bombings at the airport. And this is the only way the Taliban will be able to take control of the airport and push America out. And they may blame it on Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or any of their other buddies. But there were warnings coming from the resistance that the Taliban were planning suicide bombings. Now, 13 service members died in that attack. That's not going to change. We cannot bring them back to life. It's a tragedy what happened. Many, many American soldiers were wounded. Sergeant Tyler Vargas Andrews, look at that kid. Look at what happened to him. About 200 Afghans were also killed.
For those that don't know, he's lost a leg. He's lost his arm.
And an arm, yeah.
He's lost all his friends.
Yes.
His entire life is different now.
It is.
It's
It is.
completely...
But they say ISIS did this attack. They were so quick to say ISIS carried out this Abbey Gate bombing attack. It may be right, it may be wrong, but why are you not talking about the fact that Taliban had 1,000 suicide bombers positioned all over HKaya? 1,000 suicide bombers. Their commander was Hadi, Taliban commander named Hadi. He's with the Haqqani network. Haqqani, Sirajuddin Haqqani, his nickname is the father of suicide bombers. He was 10 minutes away from the airport. The Biden administration were very quick into saying this is based on intelligence. Our intelligence, this is ISIS that did this attack. Now, it's the same intelligence that Mr. Biden received it's the same intelligence. After the Abbey Gate bombing, he ordered a strike against the mastermind of that ISIS attack. And the same individuals who told him this is an ISIS attack also told him the mastermind is right there in Kabul. He's planning more attacks. So Mr. Biden orders a drone strike against that vehicle carrying the ISIS mastermind. And everyone in that vehicle dies. General Mark Milley at the Pentagon, he said, we can confirm that this was the ISIS mastermind, and he was on his way to carry out more terror attacks, more IED attacks. And how we know this is because of the secondary explosions. There were journalists in Afghanistan, and some of them decided to go and investigate this, the aftermath of that attack. It turned out that supposed that mastermind of ISIS mastermind was an aid worker.
I remember this.
The people in the backseat, 7 children, innocent children. What they called the secondary explosions were water bottles, water splashing everywhere. So that was the intelligence. That's how wrong the intelligence was at that time. And yet they were so quick into saying this is an ISIS terrorist attack.
Did we even have any intelligence in that country at that time? Or had everybody moved into the airport?
Mr. Biden and his State Department were relying on the Taliban for intelligence.
So the U.S. Hold on. So the U.S.'s intelligence in Afghanistan at that time was coming from the Taliban, a terrorist organization.
I don't say this. The State Department says this. Mr. Thomas West, the current U.S. Special Envoy to Afghanistan, says this, that he, at the airport, was working with the Taliban, relying on the Taliban. The U.S., we were losing the intelligence collection capability in Afghanistan as this thing was happening. And today, 2.5 years after all of this, America has lost 98% of its collection capability in Afghanistan.
98%.
Absolutely.
So we have virtually zero intelligence on the ground in Afghanistan, which is essentially a breeding ground for how many terrorist organizations?
27 terrorist organizations and growing every day.
Where do you get your intelligence from?
So the National Resistance Front, the last democratic forces in Afghanistan led by His Excellency Commander Ahmad Massoud, it's a resistance. It has a battlefield wing, headquarters. It has an intelligence wing, a political wing. The best intelligence, the most reliable, accurate intelligence comes from the National Resistance Front. No one has anything close to it. There is no one else. It's only the resistance versus 27 different terrorist organizations.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.